Hi guys. So, I wanted to tell you about this little altercation that occurred and get your opinion on it. It happened a few days ago and I'm still thinking about it. In the last episode, I was driving back to Kigali from Musanze and I stopped off at a cafe called Migano for breakfast. It was a really nice breakfast and I felt well fed and ready to get back on the road for the 2-hour drive home. Only, just as I was sorting myself out, the Migano security guard came over and asked for my phone number.
Your phone number?
Sorry?
Your phone number?
Why?
It is your
Why do you need my phone number? Why?
it is your phone number.
Why?
Number.
Why? Why? Why am I giving you my phone number?
Yes.
No. Why do you want my phone number?
On it.
No. Why? Why are you asking for my phone number? Get that lady over here. Get that lady here. You need translation. Simvuga Kinyarwanda. Why do you need my phone number?
Yes.
Oh yeah. Move.
At this point, I was getting a bit pissed off. I told him very bluntly to move because he's standing so close to the bike that I can't dismount. I'm heading over to ask the waitress to translate for us. Otherwise, we're going to be here all day. Unfortunately, we're a bit far away from the camera to pick up what he's saying, which is a real shame because I'd love to know. The waitress didn't explain what he said. She just told me that there was no problem and I could leave. He then wandered past very nonchalant until I went to fire up the engine, at which point he just muttered, "Not good."
What to go?
That was a really weird incident.
And it was a really weird incident. Even after a few days to think it through, I still can't figure out what it was all about. At first, I thought he wanted me to pay for parking, but it didn't look like anybody else was being charged outside Migano. Whilst he was talking to the waitress, I thought I heard him say something about the police, as though there was something he needed to report, and I started to wonder if something was wrong with my bike, but I honestly can't see any problem with it. Also, I got stopped by police on my way up to Musanze the day before. They asked to see my driving licence and insurance. If there was something majorly wrong with my bike, I'm sure they would have told me. This guy wasn't police, he was the parking guard at the cafe. I wonder if he just liked the look of the bike and wanted to WhatsApp me. Maybe he thought the uniform would intimidate me and I'd automatically give him my number. But I'm driving a motorbike. And I hate to break it to him, but women who ride motorbikes don't usually just do what you tell them. That's not the whole vibe. So, I still have absolutely no clue whatsoever why that just happened. If I missed something obvious, let me know. Anyway, deep breath, driving out of town. Just stopped off because there's a beautiful waterfall over there. Really pretty. I felt like such a dick overtaking them like that. Got some tourists cycling up the hill here. Those guys have got serious stamina. Serious stamina. Here's the top of the waterfall. Right, back on the road. And that was my adventure in the north pretty much completed. I said in the last video that I would take this opportunity to answer a few questions from my comments as we ride. It's a long road home, so why not? The first question comes from Asha Rides Out. She asked on my video about Mbambazi why the orphanage closed and what happened to everybody. Did the children just grow up and leave? That's actually a really interesting question. So, round about 2012, Rwanda passed the National Childcare Reform Act, and basically what that did was it moved towards closing all of the orphanages in Rwanda in favour of foster care. So the idea being that a child would have a better start in life growing up within a family rather than within an institution. Overall, it was praised as being a really good step in the right direction. I think if there was any criticism, it was probably that it happened very, very quickly. So, a lot of these orphanages that had been operating for many years pretty much closed down overnight. There was definitely a transitional period. So for Mbambazi, even though it closed to new children coming in, there was a period up until about 2019 where the children were finding foster families and suitable places to live, and in which many of the staff remained to kind of help with that transition. But eventually, when the orphanage itself was fully closed, there wasn't really the requirement for so many staff, so a lot of them did have to leave and look for other work. And that's really when the Rosamund Carr Legacy Foundation set up in order to try to make a transition towards tourism and also towards agriculture. So there's still a lot of jobs around the orphanage for farmers, and particularly for potato harvesting and for growing peas. But the children who were at Mbambazi have grown up now and gone on to live their lives. And I think that can be a kind of a strange time warp in a way, because the history of Rwanda, the recent history of Rwanda is so strongly intertwined with what happened in 1994 that often when you're visiting Rwanda, it can almost feel like it happened yesterday, because many people who come to Rwanda have done a lot of reading around the subject and a lot of reading about 1994 and the genocide against the Tutsi. And it can be really difficult sometimes to remember that that happened over 30 years ago now. So all of the children who were orphaned at that time are now well into their adulthood and approaching middle age. So although there will always still be orphans occasionally due to illness or unpredictable accidents or just family tragedy that can occur, it is much more manageable now for young children to be placed in foster care and foster homes, and there's less of a need for large institutional orphanages. So it is an interesting question, because a lot of people don't realise that Rwanda works so hard to close down the orphanages and those institutions. And I just want to add on to the end here, if you haven't seen Asha Rides Out yet, please do go and check out her channel. She's basically doing motorbike tours like I do, but she's driving through Cameroon. So please do go and show your support, because her videos are fire. Okay, another question that I got. I used to do some videos about Rwandan Sign Language. For those of you who don't know, that's how I first ever came to Rwanda in 2007. I was a sign language researcher with the Rwandan National Union of the Deaf in partnership with Voluntary Services Overseas, which is kind of like the British Peace Corps. And a question that I got on one of those videos was, where can somebody get the Rwandan Sign Language Dictionary? Now, it really hurts me to say this because it went out of print very soon after we published it in 2009. And then a few years ago, I think it was back in 2024, there was a news article saying that a new sign language dictionary was being published in Rwanda, but the way that they phrased it, it was almost as though it was the first ever sign language dictionary coming out in Rwanda, which came across as a little bit weird because it's almost like people had forgotten that we'd had a sign language dictionary since 2009. So it was interesting to read this article saying that another one was being published. Unfortunately, I have no idea where you can find this. I did try to get a copy at one point, but apparently they were out of print, and according to the article, they only published 100 copies, so at that point it's a bit of a collector's item. I even went onto the RNUD website trying to find out information about how to order it, and there's nothing on there. So I really don't know what to suggest to people other than contact RNUD directly. I'll leave the website address below. But it always really struck me as something very sad that they never put it online. It seems like there's been 2 replica projects where 2 different sign language dictionaries have been produced, but it's only for a very small limited number of people, which isn't great if you're trying to encourage a nation to interact and communicate with deaf citizens more. Really, you'd hope that they'd want to spread the sign language as far as possible. So yeah, I'm not sure what to suggest there other than trying to contact RNUD and asking them if they've got any of the dictionaries left or if they plan to publish any more or to put it online. Maybe if enough people contact them asking for it to be online, then, you know, they might just take the hint and do that. I don't know. On the video I made about getting lost in the mountains up in Gisenyi, another viewer wrote in to ask me what the music was that I used on my video. And I love this question because I get it every time I play this artist. So I'm signed up to this company called Epidemic Sound, and they produce background music and soundtracks for content creators to use in their work. And every now and again you come across an absolute gem of an artist. And this guy in particular, his name is Ibo Kadum. I hope that I haven't totally mispronounced that. But every single one of his songs is an absolutely amazing track. He's apparently a Sudanese human rights activist, and he sought asylum in Sweden, so when you look him up, he is Sudanese Swedish. And the really impressive thing is that he is self-taught. He's a self-taught singer and self-taught guitar player, musician. He is amazing, and he has this incredibly evocative African blues style on the guitar and in his singing, and I just love his work, and often I have to pinch myself because I just feel so lucky that it's available for me to use in my videos. But he is a recording artist. Please go and look him up. Ibo Kadum. I get so many comments every time that I use his music, and he is just an incredibly talented musician. So I'm also doing a series where I talk about opening a restaurant in Rwanda, but Trindalfa left a comment on one of my videos about the restaurant asking if there was going to be any discounts for subscribers. Now, I did think that was a little bit cheeky, just because we have spent so much money renovating the restaurant, and at the moment the thought of giving away things for free kind of gives me cold shivers up my spine, because I keep looking at my expenses each month and my income and hoping that eventually they're going to balance. But I'm not going to say never. So if you keep an eye, especially on the posts section, I'll post if we've got any big events coming up, And I might also post the occasional special offer for viewers because I really do appreciate you guys. You do make me smile. I've had so much support and interesting questions and just so much encouragement through YouTube. Honestly, it's been quite mind-blowing at times and I'm just really, really grateful. So every now and again, you might see a little code go by if you want to pop on by to the Cauldron and maybe get a cheeky beer or a smoothie or something like that. So keep an eye on the post section. So the last question is from my friend Margaret over at Margaret Pinard. She's a fantastic author and a lovely, lovely person. And she was saying, did she miss the update about the noise issues? So a while ago, at the beginning of the year, I had some serious noise problems in my area. It was keeping me awake all night, every night. I even ended up in hospital because my blood pressure couldn't cope with the lack of sleep. And it was easy to miss because I didn't make a big video about the end of the noise problem. I only put out a short. And to be fair, even I don't watch shorts very much. So it would have been very easy to miss. But essentially, the major noise issues did eventually stop. Now, there are still a few nights of the week when, for some reason, you hear hammering. Like there is always one person in Kigali hammering wood at 3 o'clock in the morning. I don't know why, but it is ubiquitous. It happens all across the city. Maybe they take it in turns. I'm not too sure. That does happen, but it is nowhere near on the same scale that it used to be. However, when I was up at Mbambazi, I met a hiker there, and she was just starting the Congo Nile Trail. And she told me that she had stayed in an Airbnb very close to my neighbourhood. So she was in Nyarutarama, and she told me that it was the noisiest place she'd ever been. I think they were constructing a road or something, and she heard it all through the night. And she said it was really quite disruptive to her stay. And I had another Airbnb guest at our restaurant who also suffered a lot from road building noises through the night and construction noises through the night. And the problem is not that construction happens, because construction is important and it has to happen, especially in a big city, but there are no regulations that are enforced about preventing that from going on through the night. Basically, people wake up at like 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock in the morning, and it feels very much like that Frozen scenario. You know, it's like, I'm awake, therefore everybody should be awake. You know, not looking at the wristwatch and saying, maybe I'm going to disturb people who are sleeping if I start hammering and building now. It's just like, nope, I'm awake, so I'm going to start doing that. So I don't know what the solution is, but definitely tourists do complain about it quite a bit. And people who are living here complain about it quite a bit. You've seen my videos, I complain a lot. But yeah, it is what it is. Rwanda, the land of 1,000 construction projects at the moment. But for my part, the noise has got much better, and for most of the time, most nights, I am able to sleep through the night. So that was an easy update to have missed, but thank you for checking in on me, Margaret. Very much appreciated. Right, we're coming down into Kigali now. Time to concentrate as the roads get a bit crazy. Traffic comes at you from all directions. central roundabout in town. We're past the worst of it. You can really feel the heat here. Kigali is usually a good 5 degrees hotter than Musanze. As one viewer said, she sleeps much better in the cool weather of the mountains. I'm not jealous at all. Thankfully, as hot as it is outside, it's always nice and cool in my house. I'm looking forward to getting home, cuddling the cats, and cracking open a cool beer. We're taking a shortcut through the back streets, as it's nicer than the main road. I hope you've enjoyed riding along with me. See you in the next one.